Eastham. Welcome back to Turn It Up Eastham, the town's official podcast. My name is Kayla Urquhart. I am the town's communication coordinator. Today I am joined by our police chief, Adam Bohannon, and our fire chief, Lisa Albino. We're going to be talking about emergency management and what that means for the town and what that means for you as a resident. So let's get started. Thank you both for joining us.
Of course. Thank you for having us today. My name is Adam Bohannon. I'm your Eastham police chief.
And thank you for having us, Kayla. I am Lisa Albino, Eastham's fire chief.
Great. So I guess we're just going to get started with the big picture. Can you, Adam, kind of go into detail on what our emergency management looks like in town?
Yes, I think in kind of broad terms, emergency management is the planning for, the responding to, and the recovering from any emergency that arises. That obviously covers a wide variety of situations, but we work together daily to kind of prepare for whatever is thrown our way, whether it's a winter storm or some other emergency that happens.
Okay. And can you comment kind of like on our structure and approach we take on a town from like a standpoint on that?
I think the biggest thing with a approach to emergency management is it takes a whole team to do it. So from day one, we're building a team here in Eastham. Typically, your big departments for emergencies are police, fire, and DPW, but that could also include health or really any department from top to bottom. So I think the first priority is to develop a team effort, team approach through town with all the departments. And then from there, we plan together really daily, and we learn from different emergencies daily as we prepare for whatever might come our way in the future.
Okay. Yeah. I mean, like in the past, recreation's been involved, COA. So definitely it takes a lot of departments to make this happen. Correct.
We try to kind of develop those relationships and let each department know that depending on what the situation is, we may call on you at any time to assist us.
Okay. And so outside of like town departments, do we have any regional partners or outside agencies we work with?
Yes, we partner regularly with our neighbors in public safety, town of Orleans, town of Wellfleet, or even a little further out than that. But certainly our partners in emergency management at Barnstable County play a big role in preparing for specifically storm-related situations and sheltering situations that come up. So we attend monthly meetings with Barnstable County, which all of our other partners are at as well, and we coordinate regularly with them.
Okay. And so when we talk about emergency management, I know in addition to your role as police chief, you are also our emergency manager. So can you comment on kind of what that entails and what that means for you?
Sure. During emergencies, depending on what the emergency is, sometimes I'm required as the emergency manager for the town of Eastham to take a little bit of a step back from my role as police chief and take a management role in the overall emergency rather than just the specific police-related roles. We have staff at the police department to step up and make sure that they're available for specific police-related items, but it could be a situation where there's a major fire incident going on in town, and I would assist the fire chief with communications, for example, for getting information out to the public. So my role becomes a little more global in an emergency situation than just specifically police-related.
Okay. So we've talked about collaboration and kind of our structure here in Eastham, but can you tell us where this is all happening?
Yes. So it depends on the situation, obviously, and that's going to be a popular or a frequently mentioned theme throughout this. Every situation's different. But we have what we call an Emergency Operations Center, or an EOC, that is housed at the police department in a room at the police department that we would open up during a major emergency situation. In that Emergency Operations Center, we would bring personnel together from any town department that is heavily involved in the incident, as well as outside partners such as Eversource, National Grid, Barnstable County, again, depending on the situation. The benefit to that is it puts a lot of decision makers together in one room to make collaborative decisions together rather than needing to search each other out by phone or radio or text message when we're trying to make decisions during an incident.
All right. Yeah, that makes sense. And definitely convenient for everyone to work together. So we've kind of talked about the structure. Can we kind of dive into what kind of emergencies are on both of your radars?
Sure. I think here in Eastham, what we think of when we think of emergency management is storms. We have hurricanes during the summer, or potentially hurricanes during the summer, winter storms in the winter. I think we key in a little bit more on the winter storms because a lot of times with winter storms, it involves losing electricity, which means losing heat. And our residents and visitors, that affects them more than maybe during the warmer months. So that's that's what's on our radar for kind of long-term planning. But certainly an emergency could be anything from a car crash that closes a road for a lengthy period of time, to just a tree falling down on a car or something. I mean, and anything in between. So we try to prepare for anything. And when you prepare kind of broadly, then you're able to kind of adapt and overcome in any situation.
Okay. And Lisa, do you have any emergencies from fire department standpoint?
So a lot of it has to do with winter storms. When we have people in their homes that may not necessarily have a plan for that storm. So, if there's a loss of power, we ask that you use flashlights with batteries, not candles. Have working smoke and CO detectors in your home that have a battery backup if there's no power. Generator safety. We don't want to put CO into the home or energize any of the power lines that are down. And with a winter storm, with the potential of snow, we ask that you don't cover over your hydrant with snow. When you're shoveling your driveway, we want to basically have people clear out around their hydrant if there's one in their vicinity of their home, so that we have access to it if needed.
Okay, so those are a lot of key steps that residents can take before a storm happens. Adam, do you have any more to add to that?
I think for residents, and again, I keep going back to winter storms, but that's one of our biggest concerns, especially at this time of year. We're going into the winter. Be prepared ahead of time. Don't wait for when the storm is, 12, 24 hours away. Have some bottled water, some canned food in your home. Have a flashlight that's charged. Charge your cell phone. Communicate with your family. If you have family that lives off Cape, maybe it's better to go stay with them for a day or two to avoid the wrath of the storm, or at least communicate with them to let them know you're prepared and what you've done in advance.
Okay, so those are a couple great things you can do before and during a storm. Stay connected with your family, get your supplies, but is there something you can recommend for after the storm and what residents can expect from us, but what we should also expect from our residents?
I think this would be actually before, during, and after a storm. Residents should expect communication from the town. In a situation where we open an EOC, an Emergency Operations Center, we would communicate directly from that EOC out to the public. We do that through our Code Red system, which is our reverse 911 system. You can go on the town's website to sign up for that service if you don't receive those calls already. We also use our social media platforms throughout the town. The police department will post a lot of information during emergencies. I know the fire department does as well, and the town of Eastham will share that information. So just get signed up for all of our social media accounts, and also our website. During a storm, we may post some information as well.
And I think leading up to a storm, we're very good at putting our team together, whether it be fire, police, and DPW, as to that we're monitoring the storm. And that usually happens 4 to 5 days out. So we are watching the storm at the same time, if it is storm related.
One other thing is we encourage people to help take care of each other. If you have a neighbor that you think is vulnerable in a storm situation, please check on your neighbor. Offer your services to them if you can. Maybe your home has a generator with heat, your neighbor doesn't. Maybe you can take your neighbor in for a couple hours to make sure that they're safe and warm during a storm situation or a power outage.
Yeah, that's actually a great point to my next question. So we have a shelter here in town. Can we talk about how, when, where, when it opens?
We have one of the, I believe, 5 regional emergency shelters on Cape Cod. These were implemented and planned for by the Barnstable County Emergency Management Team. Our shelter location is Nauset Regional High School. As we all know, it's a brand new facility now, so it's a great location for us to have our shelter. There's not a specific kind of metrics for when that shelter opens and when it doesn't, but it's just an ongoing discussion with our partners at Barnstable County, the Red Cross, other agencies that might provide support to that shelter when it does open. So it's just an ongoing dialogue with them. if it's going to be a major winter event, we would talk about it beforehand. Sometimes we end up talking about it right in the moment because something came out of nowhere and we have to scramble to get a shelter open. So also a kind of a step down, if you will, from a shelter would be a warming center. We would open up a warming center at the Eastham Public Library where we allow people to come in, be warm, charge your devices, for example, get on the Wi-Fi to communicate with family. And it's just kind of it's not meant to be an overnight facility, but just something to, make people a little more comfortable throughout the day and give them some services.
Okay. And can you talk about kind of, the accessibility of the shelter? Do we allow animals, kind of just to the next level of what we offer?
Yes, the shelter does accept animals. The shelter is prepared to handle anyone's needs, no matter what that is. A huge array of needs. We can accommodate any of that at the shelter. We have supplies staged in town to take to the shelter to accommodate really anything that is thrown our way. Animals are a big part of that. We have a group that volunteers that comes in to assist with the animals, and we have equipment and supplies to handle animals as well. And really with the size and scope of that school now, we're equipped to handle really any number of people that would need to come to that shelter. The one thing I will say about sheltering is it's not meant to be a hotel. It's not the most comfortable thing in the world. It's meant to keep you safe and and warm during an event. And then we look to demobilize the shelter as quickly as possible and get you back to your home afterwards.
Okay.
And I think to demobilize it, we try to do that because we realize that the school needs to reopen also. But I think having to go to a shelter, people should plan for that. If there is a major storm coming in, have what we would consider a go bag, which would include your devices that you may need to communicate with your family, some chargers, and also if you're on medication. Medication for yourself for at least 2 to 3 days you should have with you. If you are going to bring a pet to a shelter, be prepared that you should have food for that pet, and you should also have, if they're on any medicines, for them also, so that they can have what they need.
We're also prepared during a shelter opening to transport residents to the shelter if needed. And that could be anything from just you don't feel comfortable driving on slippery roads. We have 4-wheel drive vehicles. We can make that happen. Sometimes we'll borrow a large van from the Council on Aging so we can take multiple people at the same time. And even in extreme situations, an ambulance can transport someone in need directly to the shelter to keep them safe.
So if it's a major incident and the state Office of Emergency Medical Services will put a waiver out that we can transport people to a shelter instead of the hospital. If what they need is a shelter and not the hospital, we are able to do that with a waiver.
Okay, that's great information. So we talked about our vulnerable population. Would you say that the COA would be a great resource for them to reach out to prior to any storm to help them gather these things?
Absolutely. The Council on Aging is an enormous resource to us during an event. If we're expecting a large-scale event, we definitely speak with the COA ahead of time. They have a phone list of vulnerable residents that already use their services. And we've asked them several times during events to contact those people directly by phone to see if they need anything from us, ride to a shelter, food delivered to their house. If they're cold, we can provide resources to them.
Okay. So that kind of wraps up winter storms, coastal storms, flooding, where we would open a shelter, how we communicate with the EOC, and kind of all work as a team. Is there anything else you want to say to our residents regarding winter storms and how to prepare?
I think the biggest message is just to think about it ahead of time. When the sun's out and it's 65 degrees, it doesn't feel like you need to prepare for a winter storm. But this is the time of year to, not that it's 65 degrees today, but this is the time of year to think about that. We may get into the middle of January, we start to see some big storms coming. Don't wait till then to think about this. If you have any questions, both of us are available to answer any questions, email, phone calls, stop in, whatever works. But now's the time to think about it.
So that pretty much covers winter storms, coastal storms, but we all know that there's other emergencies out there, such as public health emergencies, flooding, fires. Is there any particular emergency that you think is really hard to prepare for?
I think in general, the emergencies that don't happen as often are the ones that are hard to prepare for, such as a pandemic. When the pandemic happened in 2020, that certainly falls under the emergency management umbrella. Obviously, the health department would be a huge player in that emergency, but it certainly falls under the emergency management umbrella. But we had never really done it before. So some other examples of that might be large-scale
Wildfires, brush fires, wildfires, which we bring in mutual aid if needed, if it's a large scale. And that's, preparing your house for a potential for a fire. It goes right along with, the basic everyday safety messages that we'd like to get out there with house numbers and, proper working smoke and CO detectors, things like that.
Okay. And is there an emergency that you have both learned things from?
I think we learn from every emergency. And if we didn't, we wouldn't be doing our jobs properly. I think our teams learn from every emergency. One quick story I can tell is that during the winter storms, we had severe winter storms in 2022, January of 2022. The generator at the police department failed during the storm. We had lost power. We were on generator power. Our emergency operations center was open. Police, fire, and DPW and some other players were in the EOC, and the generator failed and our station went completely dark. We were able to work with our partners at Barnstable County to get a replacement portable generator and get it hooked up. But I think that taught us that even when you think you have things under control, sometimes you get a curveball thrown at you and you need to literally be ready for anything.
Okay. Lisa, what about yourself?
I think it was the pandemic that we learned a lot from. And I think we were able to all work together to accomplish the goal of keeping Eastham safe. Both the citizens and the residents and also the emergency workers also. And, I've learned that we need to plan for our appropriate storms that are coming in, any type of emergencies, by having the proper staffing prior to the storm. Because I can't expect my firefighters to come in during a major emergency because they have to prepare at home also. So they do a lot of preparing on their end before they come into work.
Okay. How often do you say that we train on these type of things?
So the short answer to that is every day. Everything we do is training for the next thing we do. We learn, we get better. That's the mission. We do, I would say, yearly what we call tabletop exercises, which is when we bring all the departments together in one room, as well as some of our regional partners, and we talk through an exercise of an emergency, whether that's a tanker truck rollover on Route 6 with a fuel spill, or whether it's a severe winter storm. We come up with a different emergency and we talk through how we would respond to it, how we would handle it, how we would keep the public safe. And that allows us to just kind of keep fresh on some of what our resources are and how we would use them if needed.
All right. So if we have any residents interested in kind of this talk, I'd like to talk about the CERT team that, great individuals that have volunteered to kind of take some of this on. Do you want to talk about that a little bit? Sure.
A couple of years ago, we created a CERT team, which is a Citizens Emergency Response Team. It's a small group here in Eastham, about 7 people on the team, but they're volunteers, Eastham resident volunteers that are willing to basically help us with anything they're called upon to do. But the original intent was really for sheltering purposes. They are volunteers that will come help us run a shelter, keep people safe, keep people warm in the event of emergency. Some of the other things they do is they will assist us with some pedestrian traffic direction at town meeting or Windmill Weekend. They assist us at our drive-through flu clinic every year. So we're incredibly appreciative of these volunteers. Allows public safety to maybe concentrate on some areas that we feel our resources can be better used in while they're assisting with some of the work that they're capable of doing without the level of training that the public safety officials have.
Okay. So I would say this kind of wraps up our first episode on emergency planning, because I think we've talked about this. We can all talk about this for days and actually what goes into it and all the different scenarios. But if you could tell Eastham residents one thing on this subject, what would that be?
I'm going to say two, actually.
Two?
Be,
Okay.
be prepared. Think through your plan now before you actually need your plan, and make sure that you're connected with our communication sources so that we can get information to you easily, quickly, and effectively during an emergency.
Okay.
And I would have to echo Adam's thoughts on this. Preparedness is the big player here, shall we say, because we prepare also for emergencies. So the public, the citizens of Eastham should also prepare for a potential emergency and stay connected with police and fire in the town as far as our emergency communications.
Yeah.
Can I just add one more? I just want residents to know, too, that we are always monitoring potential emergencies that might happen. I was up on my couch this morning drinking my coffee, looking at the 2 inches of snow we might get Sunday night into Monday. Not probably going to be a big deal for us, but we're always monitoring what's coming next and what's happening. So just because you don't hear from us every day about something doesn't mean that we're not watching in the background, and we will communicate when we feel it's necessary.
Awesome. And one other thing I would say to sign up for would be those Eversource alerts. You can report your outages through them. You don't need to call police or fire to do so. And all that sign up information is on our website.
Yes, and please report those outages. Don't assume Eversource knows that your power's out. Please let them know. Even if they already know, be a duplicate. That's okay. Just keep putting that information in the system. That helps us too as well, because we can see the outage areas in town and direct resources there.
Great. Well, thank you both so much for joining today, and thank you for all you do to keep our community safe. I'm sure we will be talking about this subject again.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you.
To our listeners, remember, preparedness starts at home. Make a plan, stay informed, and stay connected. Stay connected with us by following the show on Spotify and YouTube, and by joining us on our social media. Don't forget to sign up for Code Red, our emergency alert system, so you're always informed when it matters most. And be sure to follow our official police, fire, and town social media channels, your trusted sources for real-time updates during any emergency. From all of us at the town of Eastham, we're wishing you a warm, joyful, and safe holiday season. Happy holidays, and we'll catch you in the next year. Thank you.